Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is your host, Young Brando, and we're live from Los Angeles talking about watches. I've been away for a few days now, so it's time to jump right in to what we do often and what we do best, and that is an auction preview, of course. The Phillips Geneva 19 with the Guido Mondani collection. We have covered most of the pieces there already, but there's still quite a bit left. I'll start with a chronograph that I really like, and it's one of those anniversary editions that are worthy of the name, and that is the lot number 24, which is a multi-scale chronograph by Patek Philippe. These were one of the pieces made for the 175th anniversary of the brand as a limited edition. And in so many ways, it is also a great conjugation of the classical heritage of Patek Philippe with what it was becoming at that particular juncture. This piece is powered by Patek's in-house self-winding chronograph movement, the caliber 28, CH28. And it also has this throwback quality that is, I think, most succinctly expressed in the multimeter scales that adorn its dial. These pieces were likewise presented in the Watch Art exhibition. Here I have a little catalog from that occasion in London. And here's that multi-scale chronograph in the 3 shades of gold as well as platinum. Accordingly, the reference number is 5975, as in 175. This is the yellow gold version, so it's represented by J as in Journe, and this piece was made in 400 examples in yellow gold, 400 in pink gold, 400 in white gold, and an additional 100 examples in platinum. And that's, I think, is really the kicker. Not simply because, it is platinum, not because I'm a purist for white metal, but I think that particular juxtaposition of the platinum case with the black dial is, I believe, the most striking. I should, in fact, have a wrist roll with that on Instagram, if I'm not mistaken. So let me see if I can pull that back. There we go. I'm going to also put the link in the chat, so feel free to take a look and see if you like it. As you can see, the dial contains 3 different scales, 3 different meters. If we are to go from inside out, you have snailed at the center of the dial, a tachometer, pulsometer surrounds it, graduated for 15 pulsations, which is a detail you usually see in perhaps more formal, presumably less sporty chronograph designs, making it a doctor's watch, since that turns the chronograph into an instrument to measure heartbeats, and then telemeter on the periphery of the dial, graduated in kilometers in that case, and that actually helps measure distance. So, and that's kind of like a trench warfare remnant, so to speak, right? In the sense that you can engage your chronograph when you hear the shelling, and once that hits your trench, you can stop it and kind of have a sense of how far the enemy is, how far they are shooting from, at the very least. But anyway, that black dial is incredible in combination with platinum. This particular example has an off-white dial that it combines with a 40 millimeter yellow gold case. It has a very distinctly stepped lug structure, which also has that sort of throwback quality, but perhaps it is more sculptural and more italicized in this modern version, as opposed to models that were a little more discreet, like the 2499, the legendary perpetual calendar chronograph, which also has fluted lugs or stepped lugs, but executed in a much more subtle fashion, you might say. This particular piece is a lot 24 of the Phillips Geneva Auction 19. And as you see, it does come with all the bells and whistles, a complete set. As you can see, these pieces also have closed case backs that are inscribed with the occasion, which is 175th anniversary of the brand, 1839 to 2014, which they celebrated with a number of limited editions, as well as a watch art exhibition in London, which has afterwards become a tradition of sorts for Patek Philippe. They had similar events in Tokyo very recently, and also previously in Hong Kong, and I believe also Singapore as well. The pre-auction estimate for lots 24, Patek Philippe multi-scale chronograph reference 5975J, is set between 33,900 to 67,900 in US dollars. At lot 42, we are looking at a very specific version of one of my favorite models by Vacheron Constantin of all time. This is the Royal Chronometer reference 6694, and precisely due to its distinct lug design, it's been called the Batman, because in the vintage in the Hour Lounge, which used to be the collectors' forum of Vacheron Constantin, that was, at least for a long time, led by Alexandre Rothby. This piece was called more like an accessory on Batman's utility belt rather than a vintage watch, rather than a late 60s classic. And I think that was a really ingenious categorization. This particular version really presents it as a late 60s, 70s piece, because it has this sort of hatch grain, you might say, Florentine finish on both the lugs and the bracelets. The bracelet is made by the famous maker Guichet, white gold matching the material of the case as well. As you can see, in the top of the line versions of this piece, there's actually a single brilliant cut diamond that is set on the Maltese cross at 12 o'clock. There's a date window also framed at 3 o'clock. The dial on this particular piece seems to have seen better days, but has at least evenly patinated. And even though I much prefer the slightly more plain Jane version of this piece in white gold on a leather strap, one has to appreciate the cohesion of the case and the bracelets on this particular occasion. And the piece, of course, comes with an extract from the archives, which dates it to 1967. It's a 35 millimeter diameter. And quite frankly, it wears a little larger due to the distinct design elements of the case, specifically the stylized lugs. This is lot number 42 for a Vacheron Constantin Batman, reference 6694 in 18 karat white gold with a matching bracelet. Lugs and bracelet are decorated with that hatch grain pattern in traditional Florentine style, and the piece has a pre-auction estimate set between $9,000 to $13,600 in US dollars. Lot number 45. You guys know that I've always been a huge fan of the so-called root beer, especially in its nipple dial iteration, whether we are talking about the OG 1675 with the aluminum insert, or the transitional models 1675-3 or 1675-8, of course, for the full gold version. This is the 1675/8, the 4-digit model. The easiest way of visually detecting that is the applied coronet at 12 o'clock above the signature. The transitional model has a newer movement which gives you a quick set date. but I think both are aesthetically extremely pleasing. This particular piece, of course, has a little bit of something extra in it that you can easily glean at 6 o'clock, and that is the insignia of the Sultanate of Oman, the crossed swords with superimposed with their traditional dagger, accordingly called khanjar. This particular piece is fitted with a bicolor aluminum insert. Generally, people prefer the full bronze colored 24-hour insert for the full gold version, and the bicolor perhaps for the bimetal version, but I've widely seen either version with really either or in terms of the insert, so that doesn't matter too much. For me, I do understand that people see the oyster bracelet as iconic and as the bracelet for the GMT-Master. I'm not going to argue a larger point, but I really think the root beer just looks a little better, a little flashier, and perhaps a little more obnoxious, as it should be, with a Jubilee bracelet. Here it is matched with a riveted oyster bracelet with polished center links, which is handsome enough. I would have preferred a Jubilee bracelet, however. This seems to be a decently preserved example as far as the case goes. You can see from the bag of the lugs how crisp some of those hallmarks are. Same thing can be said about the bracelet and even the dial. Of course, there's not much of anything else in terms of the documentation that accompanies a watch like this, which may be a concern for some, and perhaps it should be. This is lot number 45 for a Rolex GMT-Master Root Beer 1675/8 in full 18 karat yellow gold on a matching oyster bracelet with the Omani Khanjar at 6 o'clock as well. The estimated value of the piece is set between 56,600 to 113,000 in US dollars. Hey, Lex, how are you doing, man? Nice to see you as well. Speaking of the Khanjar pieces and how one can have a little more peace of mind, this is an 1802, which is to say you're looking at lot 51 at a platinum day date with a blue dial. Of course, since Rolex only introduced the fluted bezel for its platinum day date in 2022, it's unsurprising to see here a smooth, polished version. The dial itself is blue with a sunburst finish and has once again the Omani Khanjar at 6 o'clock in red, in fire red, you might even say. This is a diamond set dial, which means that you have two baguette cut diamonds at 6 and 9 o'clock and 8 brilliant cut diamonds for the hour markers, and of course the dates at 3 o'clock, which has the Cyclops magnifier above it on the crystal, and the fully spelled out day at 12 o'clock, or rather a slit like opening for that at 12 o'clock. The reason I said this is a little more compelling as an example is because it also has the corresponding Asprey engraving on the case back. And those of you who have heard it on this channel or elsewhere, have informed themselves, have learned themselves, would of course know that the Sultanate of Oman ordered a lot of these special Rolex pieces and pieces by Patek Philippe and others through Aspreys of London. So seeing that connection, whether it is expressed in terms of a specific kind of inscription on the case or through the accompanying documentation, the original warranty papers, receipts, etc., of course, gives you a little bit more of a peace of mind in situating the piece. So this is once again a Rolex day date in platinum on a matching, mounted on a matching President bracelet with a sunburst blue gem set dial and the Omani Khanjar at 6 o'clock. The case back is stamped Asprey, lot 51. And the case back itself is stamped with the serial number, which also goes with the territory, so to speak. This piece has a pre-auction estimate set between 79,200 to 158,000 in US dollars. Lot 55 is a watch that I wanted to talk about for a while and was in fact on my thumbnail in my ultimate live stream. This is the famous double crown Patek Philippe World Time watch, the reference 2523. And until the turn of the new millennium, this was the last, and in so many ways, and in more ways than one, the ultimate Patek Philippe World Time. Obviously, one crown is for setting the time, and that's the one at 3, and you have another crown at 9 o'clock, which allows you to actually initiate the world time function. The city's ring, as you can see, is very distinct with raised enamel writing. Very beautiful hand guilloche center of the dial. Fleur de lis hands. Very classically elegant watch. Perhaps one of the most distinctive aspects of this particular design is the angular lugs, which add something, I think, sculptural to this legendary and rare example of the Patek World Time. The legend of this particular piece perhaps has started with that famous art of Patek Philippe auction that was organized on the 150th anniversary of Patek Philippe by Osvaldo Patrizzi, by Antiquorum, and I believe the catalog, which I have at hand, this whole place will be so much better organized in a matter of weeks, guys. But I will get that to you. I think I have it somewhere around here. Yes. This is, of course, a slightly more ornate version. Dexterious, thank you so much. I'm the man, goddamn, I'm the man. Future price is so high, you need a layaway plan. Thank you, 20 Canadian. So the 2523 was actually on the cover of the Art of Patek Philippe auction that was organized in Hôtel de Bergue by Antiquorum Geneva on the occasion of the 150th anniversary of the brand. Of course, that's an example with the Clausenet enamel dial. So a little okay. I don't know what was going on. Right when I was reading Dexterius's super chat, which is very generous. Dexterius is also a member of the channel. 20 Canadian. Thank you so much. I'm the man. God damn, I'm the man. Future price so high. You need a layaway plan. Thank you, Dexterius. I don't know if you were tooting your own horn or saying nice things to me, but in either case, I appreciate your inputs. G. Gadwa, I was also reading your kind words too, that you saw me featured on Hypebeast. Thank you. Both Hypebeast and High Snobiety picked up on my coverage of the auction preview of Michael Schumacher's collection. I think these kinds of features will continue as time goes on. It's only the first of many. We're looking at lot 55. Yes, we were looking at the Double Crown World Time, which, as I mentioned, had its legend at least since 1989. I don't know if you were privy to my attempts to share this cover from the Art of Patek Philippe auction by Antiquorum Geneva in 1989. That cover itself has 2523, of course, with a much more special cloisonné enamel dial that depicts North and Central America as well as the Caribbean. Nevertheless, the True Crown in and of itself is actually quite special. From the Fleur de Lis hand, our hand, to the hand guilloche center dial, to the raised enamel writing of the city's ring. It's a very beautiful design. There's a certain balance to it. There is almost a sculpture-like quality to it due to the positioning of the lugs, as well as the angles and bevels of the lugs as well. And this particular example seems to be rather well preserved too, which can't hurt. Here's a look with the case back lifted onto the movement. A hand-wound movement. Of course, assembled, finished, and regulated according to the standards worthy of the hallmark of Geneva, which is present here in two different places, a swan neck regulator and gorgeous, generous Geneva stripes on the bridge plates of the movement as well, whose architecture is very reminiscent of classic pocket watch movements as well. And here is a hallmark on the band of the case. This particular piece also comes with an archival extract, which dates it back to 1960, 36 millimeter case. and with a pre-auction estimate that is set between 1,360,000 to 2,710,000 in US dollars. Again, this is an absolute classic, quite rare, I think. Beyond its limited number, it has a certain design quality that places it in a very special place in the collection of Patek world timepieces. This is lot number 55, for a reference, 2523 line 1. And again, the estimate is somewhere between 1.36 to 2.71 in millions US currency. I'm really dealing with a lot of nonsense technical difficulties tonight. I don't know what the reason is, but we'll rise above it. We're finding our pace. And thank you for your patience in the meantime. At lot 56, we have a watch from a brand that is currently in the process of being revived by one of the biggest names in luxury. But of course, in its original iteration, Daniel Roth as a brand has an immense charm, obviously, especially in a piece like this, which actually represents Daniel Roth's collaboration with none other than Philippe Dufour. Because when he had the goal to create the world's instantaneous perpetual calendar, it was, in fact, Philippe Dufour that Daniel Roth consulted. And this particular model, which has the reference number C117, is the product of precisely such an effort, precisely such a collaboration. This particular example is a pink on pink, so to speak. Of course, it features the distinct double ellipse case of Daniel Roth in 18 karat pink gold. The dimensions of it are 35 by 38, so actually quite modern dress piece. Salmon tinted dial with its distinctive vertical stripes. Apparently, due to the discs that performed the display for the day and the month, The function of this movement still remains semi-instantaneous. But the result is quite stunning visually nonetheless. There's also a leap year indicator within that oversized subdial for the pointer dates placed at 6 o'clock. And as you can see, in that style revived by Daniel Roth for Breguet as well, every single sector of the dial is framed by a coin-edged detail. Such is the detail of the work of the decoration on this dial. The caliber 8810 that powers this piece is furthermore set with an oscillating weight with chevron decoration, itself executed in gold. And here is a look at the ellipse or curvex or double ellipse case from the side profile. This is lot number 58 for a Daniel Roth semi-instantaneous perpetual calendar in pink gold with a pink dial, 35 millimeters by 38. Reference C117 has a pre-auction estimate set between 28,300 to 56,600 in US dollars. Lot 57 is Voutilainen 28 Van Uit in stainless steel from a limited run of 10 pieces. This is number 2. It has, of course, that combination of stunning decorative work that distinguishes Voutilainen's own workshop with a basket weave pattern that sets off the hour track and a wave pattern that distinguishes the center of the dial. The hands are alternatively from rhodium plated white gold and with heat blued details, including those loops. The dial is made from solid silver and engine turned by hand. Sweep center seconds. This is, of course, one of those 28 SCs, 10 pieces in titanium, 10 pieces in stainless steel, and this is number 2 of that stainless steel series. Here's a look onto that special movement, hand wound with an oversized balance wheel. The exterior curve of the balance spring uses Breguet overcoil, whereas the internal curve uses the less known Grossman curve. an example of the direct impulse escapement. A beautiful piece inside and out, and it does come with the full set of its accessories, as you can survey, at least in part here. The certificate of origin, the accompanying product literature, presentation box, as well as the outer packaging. This is lot 57 for a Voutilainen 28 SC in stainless steel with a two-tone blue-silver dial. .38.5 millimeters in diameter, and with those distinct teardrop style lugs. The pre-auction estimate is set between 79,200 to 158,000. Yes, the double escape wheels, MCM, very shrewd and observant. I like it. There we go. Lot 58 continues this trend of perhaps hyper desirable independence with one of the hottest names in independent watchmaking. This is Chronometer Contemporain, the original in platinum with the white Grand Feu enamel dial. This was the piece that in so many ways put Recep Recepi on the map as the hottest young independent watchmaker in the world. Of course, he had been toiling away with his own brands as Acrivia for a while yet, but it was only with the release of the Chronometer Contemporain and the almost instant acclaim that watch has received that he has become who he is today in terms of mainstream recognition. This particular release was a 50-piece run, and it was executed either in pink gold with a black enamel dial or in platinum with a white enamel dial, as this current example. It was, in fact, the first watch that Recep Recepi put his proper name on the dial. The naming of the watch is somewhat ironic in the sense that this is a piece that has that is quite conservative, in fact, in terms of design, and that is quite heavy in its vintage influences, a lot of Art Deco design elements in its asymmetrical outline of the dial, with this alternating pattern that surrounds its Roman numerals. An oversized subdial for the small seconds is at 6 o'clock. As you can see, this is, of course, once again, with its full set of accompanying accessories. And of course, the movement with its largely symmetrical and stunning architecture. Hand-polished surfaces on every plate and bridge, around every turn and corner. The anglage is quite rounded, deep and distinct. Deep and defined Geneva stripes decorate the bridges. For example, the cap of the balance cock as a distinctive element is black polished, as you can see here. There's so many different elements of the movement that are exhibiting a high level of handwork. Of course, this is only the icing on the cake, so to speak. The movement also is quite impressive in and of itself. Again, it's a time-only watch. You know, it's not contemporary in the sense that it's very complicated or technically innovative, but it does have a hacking second and zero resets mechanism, which means that when you pull out the crown to set the time, the second hand pauses and reverts to zero, which of course lives up to the naming of this watch as a chronometer. A single barrel rotates on the central jeweled steel bridge, as you can see here, and provides up to 100 hours of power reserve. This is lot number 58 for the first example of a platinum Recep Chronometer Contemporain 1 offered on public auction. The pre-auction estimate is set between 339,000 to 679,000 in US dollars. MCM, the case maker is the famous Geneva maker Jean-Pierre Agman, who is actually brought in-house as of, I believe, last year. But you are right in the sense that you would, up until very recently, see his own JHP signature on the cases. As for the movements, I think early in his career in in Akrivia, Recep Recepi used to work with, in fact, Valjoux-based movements. And I don't think that's particularly a secret, but do enlighten me. I mean, is it still the case that for Chronometre Contemporain, he actually outsources the movements, and from where exactly? I'd be interested to hear. I really thought that when it comes to the CC, Recep Recepi actually designed the movement and conceived it himself, but I might be completely wrong, of course. Lot 60 is an example, a very early example at that, of François-Paul Jean's chronomètre résonance. The principle of resonance, of course, has an earlier origin than Breguet himself. But Breguet actually demonstrated that principle in clocks, but also in pocket watches, which was already quite a feat. But remember, a pocket watch of that sort, the Breguet Resonance pocket watch, was in fact almost 64 millimeters in diameter. So when François-Paul Jean came into the scene and essentially made this in the form of a 38 millimeter wristwatch with essentially two separate movements, two separate gear trains with balance wheels placed in close proximity to each other so that they might, through the principle of resonance, compensate for the errors of one and the other. That was quite a horological feat. That was quite a feat of horological engineering. This particular piece belongs to the series that is often called pre-subscription. Because numbers 1 to 20 were offered to those 20 clients who had already purchased the Tourbillon Souverain, which funded the launch of the brand. Numbers 21 to roughly 30 some. And this belongs to the 30 to 40 examples that were ordered before the subscription resonances and have shallow engravings and shiny dials, typical of the earliest references of both the Résonance and the Tourbillon. Platinum case, yellow gold dial with the two silvered separate dials bolted on that back backdrop with a guilloche detail in the middle. This piece is accompanied with a fitted FP Journe presentation box, the certificate of origin, as well as a service invoice dated to August 8th, 2006. Of course, the piece itself is from right around year 2000. The dial seems relatively well preserved, which is not always the case with some of the earliest examples of FP Journe watches. So that's always a nice detail to see. And here's a look at that original architecture of the movement, as well as the shallow engravings that surround it, which are probably applied by a laser. Of course, this is a rhodium-plated brass movement, which in and of itself puts this watch in a rare company, makes it quite desirable for the collector. Those early gold dials of FP Journe watches, by the way, have a lot of charisma, whether they are well preserved or not. So that is something to be appreciated, especially when you see an early example like this. This was lot 60 with a pre-auction estimate set in the range between 452,000 to 905,000 in US dollars. Lot 63 is Philippe Dufour Simplicité or Simplicity in 34 millimeters in its original dimensions, so to speak. MCM, by the way, says about the earlier question about the source of Recep Recep's movements. MCM is a member of the channel. I'm not sure either, though they didn't manufacture movement components, but maybe that has changed. Either way, stunning timepieces. Yeah, look, that's always a question, right? Because some independent brands, some independent makers are more transparent than others about the source of certain parts, elements, aspects of their watches. You know, I think, you know, Patek is an example of those who are very transparent, right? They have a whole laundry list for basically every major component of any watch that they offer as part of their lineup, in terms of where, you know, where the dial is made, where the case is made, whether the movement is generic and outsourced, or if it is outsourced but exclusive to the brand, conceived from the ground up for them by this or that maker, whereas other brands might be less scrupulous or less forthcoming with such details. For example, it is an open secret that Groeneveld's 1941 Principia movement is made by Andreas Strehler. Then again, this is not something that they freely advertise, and the watches are by and large presented as being made in Netherlands, right? So it's all over the map, so to speak, when it comes to independent makers. They don't always present every single detail, and some watchmakers are almost unimpeachable when it comes to this, because the whole media, whatever you want to call them, obviously they're all paid for and bought at this point, basically sings their praises. So no one at all talks about whether anything is outsourced or where all these different parts come from. And then when it comes to certain other makers, for example, Habring 2, even though they by now actually make the parts of the movement themselves, they're still taken to task for using the architecture, using the general architecture, by the way, of the Valjoux 7750 throughout their range, although the modifications they make are quite significant. Anyway, coming back to the auction. By the way, I do want to share the link in the chats. So if you guys have any requests, if you want me to take a closer look at any of the lots, or if you have any other watch related questions at all, please don't hesitate to send them in with a super chat. You can include 2-3 lot numbers at once if you wish. I'll be more than happy to do a deep dive with as much horological detail as I can muster. Of course, we were just talking about Recep Recepi as perhaps the hottest young watchmaker. In that case, Philippe Dufour is probably another face that would go to the Mount Rushmore. We have already talked about F.P. Journe as well, and Kari Voutilainen. I guess those are the four kings of our era. The Simplicity was first presented in 2000, and it has at its origin the requests of certain Asian collectors. That's why it came out. That's why it was initially revealed in a 34 millimeter case size. This particular example is in platinum, and it has a hand guichet dial, which of course matches the tones of the case with a very distinct vortex-like texture or pattern at the center of the dial, Arabic numerals at the quarters with multifaceted arrow-shaped markers for the rest of the hours, and a grooved subsidiary dial for seconds at 6 o'clock, Dauphine hands for the hour and minutes. And again, a very distinct movement with beautiful anglage, a black polished cap for the escapement bridge. All the jewels are set in mirror polished countersinks. And again, the stripes on the bridge plates are quite deep and generous. This is lot 63 for a Philippe Dufour Simplicity in a 34 millimeter platinum case with a hand guichet dial. The pre-auction estimate is set in the range between 277,000 to 554,000 in US dollars. At lot 64, we have actually a local and a friend. This was the first series made by Josh Shapiro, who is someone who stands at the forefront of the revival of American watchmaking with his aptly named revival model. This, however, was the Infinity, his previous series, and the particular example you are looking at is one of the only 6 pieces that was made in white gold. The most distinct and local elements of this particular piece is, of course, the dial, which is engine turned by hand, with in fact Shapiro's proprietary Infinity pattern in the subdial for the seconds. The hour markers are hand engraved and filled in with ink. The hands for the hour and minutes are stainless steel and heat blued, and the seconds hand has that Infinity symbol as its counterweight, giving its name to the series. A beautiful 3-tone dial, you might say, with 2 distinct tones of silver or gray and pink gold details to boot. The movement is actually UWD, which is sourced from Germany, from Uhrenwerke Dresden. It's a movement that has been used by some limited edition Zinn watches as well as Lang und Heine's Hector, their stainless steel integrated bracelet sports watch. I think it is a movement that has a very interesting and captivating even architecture, even if it is not exclusive to this watch, even if it is not an in-house movement. I think it is very aesthetically pleasing. This is J.N. Shapiro Infinity in white gold. Out of 100 examples in total, and only 6 in white gold. The estimated value of the piece at lot 64 is set between 22,600 to 45,200 in US dollars. At lot 66, we have a beautiful stainless steel Calatrava that is actually an example of the limited edition that was released on the occasion of the reopening of Patek Philippe's Geneva Salon in 2006. I believe it was limited to merely 300 pieces and was made exclusively available through that boutique. I really like this two-tone dial. I love the syringe hands and the Arabic numerals that alternate with baton markers for the hours, a sector style subsidiary dial for the seconds is right under the hand stack, and between that and 6 o'clock. I think the watch is very charming, and here offered with the full set of its accessories, which include, of course, the certificate of origin, the limited edition attestation that is dated to January 20th, 2007, the accompanying product literature, the commemorative coin, the leather portfolio to hold the documents, as well as the commemorative presentation box and its outer packaging. The case back of the piece also marks the occasion. 1839 is, of course, the founding of the brand. 1982 marks the date of the original opening of the Geneva Salon. And 2006, of course, as previously mentioned, was the year in which that boutique was reopened. And that was celebrated with this stainless steel Calatrava reference 5565A, which finds its inspiration in one of the first waterproof wristwatches that Patek Philippe ever produced, in reference 565, We have talked quite a bit about the vintage inspiration in the dial design, but the 36 millimeter stainless steel case, as well as that two-tone dial with its sector details, can be attributed to the same throwback quality. The estimated value of the piece is set here between 22,600 to 33,900 US dollars. Stainless steel Patek Philippe Calatrava, reference 5565A, one of 300 pieces in stainless steel for the reopening of the Geneva boutique. That was lot 66. Lot 67 is a much more modern piece. As you guys know, for the 20th anniversary of the Aquanaut model, in 2017, the new jumbo cases with their 42 millimeter diameter were introduced. Those were also harkening back to the very first special order Aquanauts that were made in white gold. This is a model that was introduced just a year later in 2018 for the first time. The 5968G is the Aquanaut self-winding flyback chronograph in white gold with that sunburst blue globescape dial, which is matched with tropic style blue strap. Sorry, I need to correct myself. It was actually 2017 was when the white gold cases were introduced in serial production for the time and date model. 2018 is when the flyback chronograph joined the Aquanaut family, and 2021 is when that model, 5968G, became a reality, when the flyback chronograph was made in white gold and offered in blue and green with matching tropic style rubber straps. This particular piece is from that year and is offered in like new condition as lot 67 with the full set of its original accessories. And the estimated value of the piece is set between 67,900 to 136,000 in US dollars. Lot 69 is a classic Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar Chronograph in platinum with an opaline white dial. The 3970, as you guys know, is probably one of my favorite Patek Philippe watches of all time. I really like the compact case dimensions. I love the fact that these were still built, as was the 5970, by the way, and that was the last series, in fact, to do that. These were built on the Lemania CH27 base. This particular example seems to be quite well preserved, part of the 4th series, quite late in the production for the 3970, before it was replaced by the 5970. Baton hands. Pointer date at 6 o'clock, which surrounds the aperture for the moon phase indicator. 2 subtly recessed subdials at 3 and 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, you have the continuous seconds subdial, which surrounds microhand for 24 hours. And that is also your day-night indicator, of course. And at 3 o'clock, you have a 30-minute totalizer, which encircles your leap year indicator. I think those subdials are themselves a thing of beauty in their subtly recessed and grooved details. Of course, you have the 2 wickets at 12 o'clock above the Patek Philippe signature for the day of the week and the month. The obus-shaped hour markers, as well as the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand. Here's a look. Distinct Patek Philippe version of the Lemania CH27 with their recognizable Y-shaped chronograph bridge. And the screw cap on the column wheel. This is lot 69 for a 3970 EP, a Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar Chronograph from 2005 with a 36 millimeter platinum case and an opaline white dial, and an estimated value in the range between 79,200 to 158,000 in US dollars. At lot 71, by the way, again, I'm going to send the link in the chat. So if you want me to examine any particular lots more carefully or in additional detail, please feel free to alert me. Please feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat, and I will be more than happy to jump in with as much horological and historical detail I can muster In the meantime, we're looking at the Phillips Geneva auction number 19 at lot 71, which is a very distinct version of Cartier's iconic model tank, perhaps the most tank-looking version of the tank Guichet. Hit the like button, by the way, if you have enjoyed the show so far, if you have learned anything from it. You can at least do that for me, and trust me, for a small channel like this, it helps a great deal. Those likes, those shares, the fact that you spread the word about the channel, the fact that you follow me on Instagram and here, and suggest my platform to fellow enthusiasts and other collectors means a lot, makes a huge difference. So hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. I have watch content coming at you on a daily basis. And if you would like to support the channel in any other way, obviously the opportunity is there through all the different ways that that YouTube allows you. But there are also additional options in the links provided in the video description as well. All right, we are looking at lot 71 of Phillips Geneva Watch Auction 19. This is a Cartier Tank à Guichet released for the 150th anniversary of Cartier in a 150 pieces. In platinum. This model was introduced in 1997, and it features a jump hour mechanism with the minutes shown through the aperture at 6 o'clock, giving it both a discreet and distinctive look, as Cartier usually does with its platinum pieces. The crown here is set with a multifaceted ruby. And that is an octagonal crown as well, which fits the styling of the watch overall as well. Very beautiful look. As you can see, of course, this particular piece also comes with its anniversary presentation box, as well as a blank set of Cartier warranty papers, the product literature. It features a platinum case that measures 25.5 millimeters by 37 millimeters. And at lot number 71, this example of a platinum limited edition of Cartier's Tank à Guichet that they released for their 150th anniversary has an estimated value that is set in the range between 33,900 to 67,900 in US dollars. At lot 70, we have a very interesting example of Daytona, a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona reference 6239. Pump pushers, matching tachymeter bezel in stainless steel, a dial in the reverse panda configuration, so to speak, with a black backdrop and kind of silvered opaline white chronograph registers. The Daytona writing, however, is aged in a way that it kind of registers as a powder blue tone, which is an interesting detail. Here's a peek onto the classic Valjoux-based movements, the caliber 722. This is a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona reference 6239 at lot 70 with a pre-auction estimate set between 45,200 to 90,500 in US dollars. Lot 72 is a 6263. Which is quite a different version aesthetically and technically, because it has actually a bakelite bezel inserts for the tachymeter and screw down pushers, a panda dial as well with a silvered opaline white backdrop and black chronograph registers. The movement is the updated caliber 727. In fact, the 6263 in many ways represents the final evolution of the hand-wound Daytona line. It remained in production until 1987, until it was replaced with the new self-winding series built on the base of the Zenith El Primero caliber 400s, what Rolex iterated as caliber 4030. This piece is a very handsome example with the chronograph registers having taken on a lightly tropical tone. The piece has an estimated value as lot 72 at lot 72, set between 79,200 to 158,000 in US dollars. Let's shift gears a little bit and jump to lot 78. We're looking at another definitive independent watchmaker of the contemporary era, Vianney Halter. This is the Antiqua. Or rather, I'm sorry, it's getting a little late. I'm getting confused. This is the Classic, which is, of course, a steampunk design that belongs to the series that culminated with the Antigua, the perpetual calendar. But of course, it belongs in its origin to Vianney Alter's collaboration with Jeff Barnes, although that collaboration did not last for very long. I've always looked at the classic as a more aggressive, a more artisanal, perhaps also, and a more retrofuturistic take on the classic Gérard design, the Cartier Pasha. Down to the T-bar lugs and the round case. But of course, the similarities might simply end there. The detail that you see on the dials of these pieces, of these Vianney Alter pieces, are incredible. And of course, they also feature a rather original take, both in terms of finishing and the self-winding architecture on the classic Lemania base of caliber 8810. With the mystery rotor, which is an oscillating weight mounted on a transparent sapphire crystal. And that, of course, allows an unimpeded view of the double barrel architecture, as well as the movement decoration that is, of course, most distinctive in the stripes on the bridges. Vianney Alter calls this movement VH100, but as I mentioned, it is actually built on the base of the Lemania 8810. This particular example of the classic is made in pink gold. It has 36 millimeters in diameter and an estimated value that is set between 28,300 to 56,600 at lot 78. At lot 80, we have a very interesting and special example of H. Moser or H. Moser Company's Perpetual One. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the Perpetual One. That is, in fact, a movement designed by Andreas Strehler and almost immediately recognized in its accomplishment. I think it was in 2005 when Strehler designed this movement for Moser, when it was still under the leadership of Dr. Jürgen Lange. And in year 2006, Moser's Perpetual One won the award for the best complicated watch in Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève, the Academy Awards of Swiss horology, as it is sometimes called. Of course, this perpetual calendar that is housed here in a particularly ornate and also incredibly stunning and unique case is actually known for its simplicity, because as you can see on this dial as well, it has a pretty minimalist display for a perpetual. Its most important information is displayed through a window here at 3 o'clock, a relatively oversized window as well here for the date. It has a power reserve indicator at 9 to counterbalance that date window, and actually a micro hand hiding under the hand stack, which actually indicates the month as well, since there are 12 markers for the hours, as there are 12 months as well. There's also a very subtly recessed subdial for the seconds here on this enamel dial. A Grand Feu enamel dial. The hands are beautifully heat blued, a set of spade hands with the minute hand ever so elegantly twisted. This is a full Hunter case executed in pink gold, 46 millimeters in diameter. And as you can see, the case is both guilloche decorated and enameled, as well as gem sets. The watch combines 5 different artistic crafts: the Grand Feu enamel on the dial, guilloche, cloisonné enamel, hand engraving, and gem setting on every aspect of the case, including the case flanks, a very stunning and ornate example of Moser's classic and minimalist Perpetual One in an oversized full Hunter pink gold case. A limited edition worthy of the name at lot 80 of the Phillips Geneva auction number 19 for an H. Moser Company Perpetual One heritage. The piece has an estimated value somewhere between 33,900 to 67,900 in US dollars. At lot 81, speaking of limited editions, we have an F.P. Journe piece that has been made only in 5 examples. This is a Tourbillon Souverain made for Journe's Hong Kong boutique. It's an example of the TN Tourbillon Nouveau, which includes deadbeat seconds, remontoir d'égalité avec seconde morte. The case is 40 millimeters in diameter, in titanium with pink gold accents, as you can see, which is something reflected in the aesthetics of the dial as well. And of course, the movement is in 18 karat pink gold 2, which perhaps in this particular case actually reflects that aesthetic contrast that otherwise defines the design elements of this two-tone piece. This is lot number 2. Sorry, this is only number 2 of a 5-piece limited edition. Lot 81 for an F.P. Journe Tourbillon Souverain in titanium, exclusively made for the brand's Hong Kong boutique. The piece has an estimated value set between 220,000 to 439,000 in US dollars. Lot 85 is an early example of the Tourbillon Souverain from year 2003 with a 38 millimeter platinum case. A rhodium plated brass movements and a yellow gold dial. This particular example belongs to the 4th generation. Of course, sympathetic members of the audience would remember that generations of the Journe Tourbillon were in fact the topic of the very first episode of my references and auction results series. So check out that video if you would like. It's a very extensive and immersive review of the variations of the tourbillon as they were released through the years by Journe and how they have been valued in the market. This particular example, again, it's an early example of that first tourbillon that Journe made in wristwatch form in serial production, a 4th series before such examples of the tourbillon nouveau that we were looking in the form of a limited edition earlier came about. This is lot 85. Journe Tourbillon Souverain in a 38mm platinum case. A yellow gold dial belonging to the 4th series of its production from year 2003, with the full set of its accessories. The piece has an estimated value set between 204,000 to 407,000 in US dollars. Lot 88 is a watch that we really like in this channel. My friend St. Peter prefers the R version, the current version available in the contemporary catalog, the 5235R. I like this discontinued white gold example with the two-tone silver dial, the 5235G, as it is presented here at lot 88 from the Geneva auction number 19. This is a Patek Philippe annual calendar with a regulator dial. One of my favorite things about this watch is its case design, which harkens back to those first references, to those early models that were the first self-winding perpetual calendars by Patek Philippe, the 3448 and 3450 that was shortly to follow. The Italian collectors nicknamed those padellone, meaning a large frying pan in Italian, because of their oversized cases that were kind of all dial with sharp angular lugs, which is a design revived for this reference 5235, which was the brand's first ever regulator dial wristwatch. It also introduced new generation micro-rotor movements with a unique architecture, as well as 3 major silicon components that were previously only reserved for the advanced research models. These are a silicon escape wheel, a silicon anchor, and a silicon balance spring. As I mentioned, this particular version, 5235G, is now discontinued, but the model line is still represented in the lineup by the example in pink gold. This particular example apparently goes all the way back to 2013. The model line was first presented in 2012, again with a 40.5 millimeter white gold case. Lot 88 has an estimated value set between 22,600 to 45,200 in US dollars. Patek Philippe Regulator dial annual calendar 5235G. At lot 91, we have an interesting two-tone, or you might say tone-on-tone example of an AP Royal Oak Tourbillon, reference 26510 IP, meaning that it combines titanium case and bracelets with platinum details, the octagonal bezel, as well as the tapering interlinks of the bracelet are in platinum. The piece has a petite tapisserie dial with a smoked blue finish and an opening for the tourbillon at 6 o'clock, an oversized opening for the tourbillon at 6 o'clock. The case is 41 millimeters in diameter. And it is only 9 millimeters in thickness. This particular model was produced only in 50 examples. And again, shows some of the most important capabilities of AP as a manufacturer in featuring an ultra-thin hand-wound tourbillon movement. This was one of the 40th anniversary models released in 2012. And the platinum titanium limited edition itself was released in 2017. Lot 91, which, as you can see, has a power reserve indicator that finds its place in a recess on the base plate of the movement on the reverse side. This is an AP tourbillon extra thin, reference 26510 IP at lot 91, with an estimated value set between 136,000 to 271,000 in US dollars. I'm going to maybe share 2 or 3 more watches with you, and then say goodbye for the night. If you have any questions, if you perhaps want to squeeze in a super chat before I close to show your appreciation or to contribute to the channel, feel free to do that in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And again, I'm covering Phillips Geneva number 19 auction. So if you want me to take a look and shine the spotlight on a couple of watches before I close, feel free to send in those lot numbers with a super chat as well before I close for the night. In either case, feel free to hit the like button on your way out. I appreciate your presence and support. And of course, if you would spread the word, if you would share the link with other collectors and enthusiasts, that would already be a great help. We're looking at lot 99, and that is an example of Vacheron Constantin, a limited edition of 60 pieces, Fernand de Magellan. This is a Wandering Hours piece with a cloisonné enamel dial that was produced as a limited edition. It was released in 2004. And of course, the centerpiece is the cloisonné enamel dial that depicts the route Magellan traveled from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. And as you can see, that route remains the centerpiece of the dial, whereas you have a cutout in the lower part of the dial in the form of an upward-facing crescent, where you have the wandering hours traveling over the course of 60 minutes. This particular example is executed in yellow gold, 40 millimeters in diameter, and it does come with its certificate of origin, original warranty papers, the accompanying product literature, the full set of its accessories, basically including the loop, hang tag, a DVD, as well as the presentation box and its outer packaging. The pre-auction estimates is set between $22,600 to $45,200 in US dollars. At lot 101, we have an example of the Cartier Crash with a salmon dial. This is an 18-karat white gold piece. quite a rare combination. The lot essay sets it apart as only the third known example of such a combination. The piece is, of course, accompanied by its international warranty card, as well as its certificate of origin, the accompanying product literature, the presentation box, and its outer packaging is included as well. The piece is from 2022. And lot 101 for this Cartier Crash in white gold with a salmon dial is valued between 45,200 to 90,500 in US dollars. Lot 102 is a TV screen shaped perpetual calendar chronograph by Patek Philippe. It's a cushion-shaped case to be more proper, to be more generally descriptive. This is the reference 5020. It's quite rare, precisely because it was not particularly liked by collectors at the time. So the production figures were low. The understanding is that there were approximately 200 examples made in yellow, pink, white gold, as well as platinum. This is a platinum example, which has a black dial with diamond markers. Only 3 such examples surfaced, apparently, as well as 4 examples of the silver dial, which is adorned with Breguet numerals. This piece is from 1997, 37 millimeters in diameter. Again, a platinum case with a black jam set dial. It comes with the full set of its accessories, as well as an archival extract, which confirms the originality of the dial as well. It has an Italian calendar to boot. This is a TV screen style Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar chronograph from the late 90s. The reference 5020 platinum case with a black jam set dial with an estimated value set within the range between 166,000 and 331,000 in US dollars. Let's do 2 more watches and wrap this up for, or 3 more and wrap this up for the nights. 106 has an extremely rare Patek Philippe chronograph. Speaking of cushion-shaped cases, this is an example that is a revival piece and is extremely limited. a reference 3670A. It was an application watch when it was introduced, made in a limited run of 16 pieces. In 1996, when Patek was preparing to move its workshops from the historic address in Rue du Rhône to Plaine-les-Ouates, they discovered in an old wooden chest 16 vintage chronograph movements, the caliber 13-130 from the 1950s, already assembled and adjusted. Of course, that 13 ligne movement that was built on a Valjoux base was a staple in Patek Philippe chronographs. It powered the reference 130 and the famous Tasti Tondi 1463 as well. Patek wanted to properly celebrate this discovery, so these pieces were put in the steel, a very, very special piece indeed, because such complicated stainless steel, even more rare than some of these desirable stainless steel Calatrava. I really don't know what is going on today, but we are making one last push. I was almost done. I was waxing poetic about this particular Patek Philippe chronograph, which is actually a piece from the 21st century, but built on a basically chest of movements that were found from the mid-century. 16 examples of the caliber 13-130, 13-130, which was, of course, the 13 ligne movement that was built on the Valjoux base and that had powered the iconic references 130 and the 1463 Tasti Tondi as well. The fact that this is a complicated Patek Philippe watch in stainless steel puts it in a very distinguished and rare company of extremely elusive watches. These were again made only in 16 examples to celebrate what was best about Patek Philippe in its classical era to replicate some of that magic in an extremely rare and exclusive piece in Patek Philippe's contemporary mold. These were launched in 2011, and this particular example belongs to 2012. It comes with its limited edition attestation, as well as its certificate of origin, which dates it back to June 16th, 2012. A large leather folder that has the information related to the history of the watch, accompanies the lot as well. Here's a great look at that classic caliber 13-130 with that screw cap on the column wheel, the distinctive Y-shaped Patek Philippe chronograph bridge, which bears the hallmark of Geneva, and a swan neck regulator as well. This is lot 106 for a Patek Philippe reference 367A, cushion-shaped stainless steel Patek Philippe chronograph powered by a 1950s movement with an estimated value between 566,000 to 1,130,000 in US dollars. The next example, the next lot is an example of the Hulk, which has been discontinued for a while now. This is the reference 11661 OLV. Of course, it was on the chopping block when the new generation of the Submariners were introduced in 2021. Much like its white gold counterparts that had a blue theme, this piece had a green Serichrome bezel insert that was paired up with a green sunburst dial. A canary in the coal mine kind of piece here. It does happen to come from the Guido Mondani collection as well. These pieces had kind of a momentary surge in the wake of their discontinuation, but almost immediately, since their decline also coincided with the begin of a larger decline in the secondary market for watches. Lot 107 here can be an interesting gauge for where everything is going. I think, again, in and of itself, a good or bad result wouldn't prove anything, of course. But considering how even some of the hotter pieces are not performing in the way that we have been used to, in the way that the auctioneers have gotten used to, even at Phillips Geneva auction, I think tells you everything that you need to know about where the watch market is heading these days. Lot 107, which is a Rolex Submariner Hulk, a reference 11661 OLV, has a pre-auction estimate that is set between 8,900 to 17,700 in US dollars. It is presented with the full set of its accessories. Another piece from the Guido Mondani collection, and this is going to be the very last piece that I will share with you today. This is a white gold Daytona mounted on a matching oyster bracelet with polished center links, a reference 116509. The piece has a black racing dial with Arabic numerals for the hour markers that are radially arrayed on the dial, red accents that include all the chronograph hands, as well as the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hands. This particular piece also comes with the full set of its accessories. And is offered in a practically pristine condition, or so the lot essay concludes. This is lot 108 from the Guido Mondani collection, a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona in white gold on a matching oyster bracelet with a black racing dial, Arabic numerals and red accents, from 2012, and an estimated value of 16,600 to 33,200 in US dollars. All right, I'm saying good night for tonight, for this night. I thank Dexterious especially for being a member of the channel and for having contributed so generously tonight. Everyone else who has chimed in the chat, who has shown support, who has hit the like button. Thank you so much for your support and presence. If you could spread the word about the channel, if you could send the link to fellow collectors, other watch enthusiasts, that would be great, and it would help me quite a bit to expand this community that only comes together around passion for and knowledge of wristwatches. If you would like to support the channel, obviously YouTube offers you a number of different options. The membership gives you access to exclusive content that is an ever-growing archive. If you would like to support the channel in other ways, of course, there are links that give you some options in the video description as well. If nothing else, please hit the like button on the way out. I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. Take care. Goodbye.